Hi, and welcome to the first ever CBU Arts production class, music production. I see I've got one or two students here. Thanks for coming. Today we'll be talking about the introduction to music production. What is music production? Okay. Music production in basic terms could be a formulation of something and making it into a product. For example, our dairy produce boards, they use milk as a raw material to produce yogurt, to produce all the many other milk products. As for music, we use our raw materials is our songs, our melodies, our compositions, the songs that we sing when we're bathing or we're working or we're doing whatever things that we're doing in our lives. So a music production is where we take that music and make it into a product that is sellable, that is presentable to the public. So basically, music production is a process. First of all, music production is a process, meaning that you start from somewhere with a goal to reach another point. So it's a process. We start with raw material of music. That is, we start with a melody or an idea. Then we create a song, we create the rhythm to the song, which is the beat, the tempo to the song, which is the speed of the song. So the process starts at some point, and it's got a middle point and a final point, which is called the mastering, where now we are able to get our music to the public, we are able to sell through different medias or mediums, or different media. So, music production. What is music production? Music production is a process. It is a process of developing an idea of music, developing it, then creating the music. Creating the music, then refining the music, and then now, after we refine, we are able to present it to the public. So we start by developing an idea, number one. We develop an idea. How do we develop an idea? We develop an idea by listening to, for example, somebody comes with a song in a studio, and they say, this is my idea. The song goes like this, the melody goes like this. So now we get that melody, we put a beat to it, or we put a rhythm to it. So we develop it. We put it in a standard form, because sometimes people just sing freestyle. People sing out of rhythm, which is rhythmic for them. It's because rhythm is individual. But as producers, you get that idea and develop it into something that can be listened to with an order, or with order, where you put the intro, you put the middle part of the song, or the main part of the song, and the outro, which is the end part of the song. So we start with developing an idea. After we develop an idea, then we create the song from the idea. Okay? We create the song from the idea. Okay? So it's a process, as I said, a process of developing, creating, and refining. So when we develop an idea, we put everything together, we put chords to it. Okay, it's going to go like this. We've got how many chords, then we change to this, then we create the song. After creating the song, we refine the song by a process called editing and mixing down, and then we master the song. After we master the song, then it's ready for people to consume or to listen to. So that is the process of music production. So music production is a process of developing, creating, and refining music for public presentation. So that's the kind of course that we are going to, in everything that we'll do during this whole 10 weeks, 20 lessons in 10 weeks, is we're going to look at this development, the creation and the refinement of music to the mastering level. Okay? Production flow. Our item on production flow is where we look at the songwriting. First on the list is songwriting, where somebody sits down with either paper and pen, or others just use studio. They sit and record their ideas. They record their lyrics. They don't have to use a pen. So every part of the lyrics, they're recording that part. In the end, they study the song. So songwriting, you write a song. After writing the song, you start composing the music to the song, because the song is essentially a melody. Okay? Like happy birthday to you is a melody. What makes it a complete song is the other things that we add to it, which are called accompaniment. So in this case, accompaniment, we use different tools. We use keyboards, we use guitars, we use all sorts of instruments. We can even use a saxophone, anything that inspires you to kickstart your idea can make you compose. So you write a song, then you compose around it to make it into a complete song. Then after you compose, you record the song. Okay? You record the song, meaning that you're putting it down. You are preserving the idea. So when you record it, it's a record of what you've come up with. But as music producers, there are other areas that we go into, are other opportunities that we have as we work as musicians or music producers. We've got the opportunity to design sound, which is this part. We design the sound. Sound designing comes in many forms. There is where you get, for example, a microphone, and then you go out there and pick different elements. There's a lot of sounds around us. There's sounds, there's noises, doors creaking, there's birds singing, there's dogs barking, there's all crickets in the night, cars passing, the wind. So you record that, and then you come up with what we call sound samples. But luckily, we usually have a record of sounds or sound samples that are already preserved. You're welcome. Your name, sir? Tinashe. Yes, Tinashe. You're welcome to the production class.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll just do a quick review of what I said in just 1 minute. It's good that you've come and I can review for your sake. So we're talking about music production. Music production, what is music production? We said music production is a process by which we develop a music idea. We develop a music idea, we create from the developed idea, we create a song or songs, then we refine the creation. Okay? After refining the creation, then we mix and master it so that now it can be okay for public consumption or public presentation. You understand? Okay, so and then now from music production, we said music is a product like any other. You get raw materials, you get copper, then you make copper wires. You get fruits, you make fruit juice. Music, you get melodies and the songs and rhythms, put them together and come up with a song which you can sell or you can just have in your car or at home or at church. Yeah, so then there's the production flow which is used by a producer or a production house. So which starts with songwriting. You can write a song, an idea of the song, then you compose the song, you put the flesh around the song or the melody. Usually you say, he's singing a song. Usually a song is in parts. There's the melody, there's the rhythm of the song, there's the accompaniment, which is the music or the sounds that come around the song or the melody to make it a complete song. Then there's a recording where now you preserve the song. You record the song for future posterity or for self-satisfaction or whatever reason. But recording is important because then we don't have the capacity to remember everything. So you record it. So you write a song, compose things around the song, develop the song, then you record it. Then there are sounds that go with the recording. Those are the sounds that you design. You can either design them yourself. As I said, you get a very good microphone or something, some recording device, whatever you can use, or even a phone, and you go out there and you record some parts. You can even record an interview, somebody's talking, you come back. That is sound design. You design the sound. You can say, okay, I don't want for example, if you understand what a snare is in music, you say, I want to make my own snare. So you can get a paper and just hit on it, make a tapping sound. You record it and you use it in your song. So that's sound design, which is a good thing because sound design on its own is a big profession as a music producer. You can be a sound designer only in a corporation. For example, those guys who do sounds for movies, for cinema, for TV, those are designers. They can design from zero, but they usually get that sound and put it in a bank or they preserve it and call them samples. That's why it says sound samples. You've got samples of dogs, samples of cars, samples of even steps or feet walking. Then there's a process called mixing down, which is now where you get your melody, your music, put them together to make them, to put them in an orderly way. Yeah, so there's tools that we use in mixing down. Then after mixing down, you say, okay, fine, you master. The last process is mastering, where now you are going to make it standard for it to play in any media or in a radio, small radio, big radio, a big speaker, small speaker, phone, or even up to a stadium setup. So you master, because then there are certain kilohertz or megahertz that you have to follow. Because if you don't follow those, if you don't standardize the product, then it will not be able to play on certain. You've noticed if you get a song, sometimes the phone tells you unable to play this media. Yeah, because then maybe it's not in standard form. Yeah, so that is the production flow. That's mastering. Then we come to the music producer. All this introduction is necessary for you when you become a music producer. Now you understand your background and your foundation. So, what is a music producer? And or who is a music producer? A music producer is a person who creates a vision, and that's number one. They create a vision. Sometimes people come to the studio and they don't really have the direction to move with a song or a melody or an idea, but you create a vision for them. You say, this song can go in this direction, and you advise accordingly what can be used, what musicians can be used to help you. And you say, okay, we're going to start on this chord. You may, as an artist or a person who has come to record, have a different idea, but the producer will have a bigger vision or a bigger outlook on things, and he may have more knowledge, and he will advise you accordingly. So he will create the vision for you, or the direction. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the music producer advises the musician. Yeah, they will advise. A music producer will sit there, a singer will be singing, they'll be doing all sorts of things, and then you will advise them accordingly. You don't have to force your idea, but you advise. And then it's up to them, but there are times that a producer insists because you know where you're going. Okay, and then another way is, another function of a music producer is to coordinate. They don't always have to lead. As a music producer, sometimes you find the artist is so knows so much about music, and they really know what they want. And maybe you will just coordinate various entities or personnel to come and help. Other players, you come in, okay, on this one, I'll bring in this guitarist to help you. So you will just coordinate the action of the recording, as opposed to sometimes you are the leader as a producer. Sometimes you sit back and you're just the engineer. You're just working on the machine there, and sometimes artists, in fact, most of the time, artists who are good enough produce themselves practically. And then for you to be called a producer, you use what is called a door to qualify. It's like doctors. You say, oh, for you to qualify to be a doctor, then you use a scalpel, or use this. There are certain things that you say, okay, this guy is a doctor or this guy is a lawyer. You know. So with producers, we use what we call digital audio workstations. The DAW, digital audio workstation. So as a producer, you have to be familiar with a digital audio workstation. What is a digital audio workstation? A digital audio workstation is a program that the computer uses, or any recording machine uses to record music. It's a software that is behind the recording, or various recordings of music or sounds. So an example of a digital audio workstation is, for example, Cubase, Nuendo, Pro Tools, Fruity Loops Studio, which is what they call it FL. All those are digital audio workstations. So I hope I'm not moving too fast.
It's okay.
It's fine? Okay, so a producer will create a vision where there's no vision. If there's a vision, you advise, go with the vision and advise accordingly where maybe changes can be made. And if even that is there, then you will just coordinate the whole process. You know? But at the end of the day, to record, you use a program which is called a digital audio workstation. Now, we are going into a field called production, music production. So you need to know how far you may go or you would want to go. These are some of the world-renowned producers. World-renowned as in their productions have influenced the direction of music of the whole world. Not where you produce a song, maybe just in your part of the world, it's nice and then you're playing it just on the side. But these guys have influenced the whole world. An example, I've got two guys that I know here. There's Quincy Jones at the very end, on the left. Quincy Jones is an American. And there's Dr. Dre down there for the young at heart as well. Quincy Jones produced, he bridged the gap between soul music from the time of the Ray Charles, Motown records. Then he produced Michael Jackson, Thriller. Okay, so Thriller is considered as one of the biggest records ever made, selling more than 2 million copies. Was it in the US alone or worldwide? 2 million copies. That's a lot of copies to sell. Because for you to do, is it a platinum, is it 100,000 or 200,000 copies? 100,000 would give you an award. 200,000. But these guys went up to 2 million copies. Thriller. And then these other guys have produced rock music, the Beatles, you know. Dr. Dre is behind Lady Gaga. If you have an idea, I'm just giving you world-renowned producers. There's Lady Gaga, there's Eminem, Tupac. So these are guys who have influenced the direction of music. But everyone says, I know I want to be that, like that one. So you can imagine how much demand they had. If you can influence the whole world, it means the whole world wants to come to you. I'm talking about maybe 500,000 people want a song. How long do you take to produce such music? You know what I mean? So that's the world renowned. As you go into production, you should know where you're going. Maybe you think it's just doing like a song, it's done. No, you can actually influence the direction of the industry. Africa. I've only got one guy in Africa. His name is Don Jazzy. Don Jazzy is a Nigerian producer. These are the guys who formulated this latest, who came up with the formula for this latest Nigerian music. We used to have a lot of influence from South Africa, and there was a time there was a lot of rumba from Congo, Franco, and then there was a lot of rumba. And Zambia has been a conformist country where hits are coming in. Woo! Oldies, we're dancing. Oh, rumba, we're dancing. Then these guys came and beat the whole Africa with their latest, this Nigerian thing. Davido, he was the first producer of those with Davido. All the small artists there, the big artists in Nigeria, have gone through or have been in touch or have been connected to this guy. So these are guys who dug deep in the Nigerian, traditional music, and then came up with a new sound. Then in Zambia now, we have a number of producers. I may not have all of them here, not out of disregard, but maybe space. You know what I mean? But we've got people like Charlie Bravo Mlalami. There's what's his name? Okay, there's Tishon, Charlie Bravo. Charlie Bravo had an influence in the country after, for example, a person like George Chivangu, the late, may so rest in peace. George Chivangu had an influence from Mondo music. In Zambia, we had Mondo music. I'm sure you are familiar, sir. There's a Mondo music. We've had eras of music. There was Kalindula coming up like this. There was record companies in Ndola and Lusaka. Then as we came up, over the years, we had serious influence from Mondo time. Then there's Charlie Bravo, who changed the industry. We came with Chameleon, we came with Taitu, the whole team from there. Then there's TK from Roma side, who did his part as well. He had a lot of influence from JK. JK was from Mondo. I did a lot of work with TK, trickling down all these production groups and producers until now. We've got a guy called Stash. Stash is the producer in Zambia, and he's I think recently won Best Producer for Kwacha Awards. We respect him. He's got a good sound that has influenced a lot of people, from Your Maps. I'm talking about people who have changed the face of Zambian music. There's a lot of other producers who are working in the background, who are doing marvelous work, but these are the guys who are changing the direction. Okay, so we come to our next part in our introduction. This is all introduction. Eh? What is a studio? We've talked about what production is, and the person who works in the production is a producer. Then the producer has a place where he works from, which is called a studio. A studio is a place where an artist creates his work. Simply. Yeah. He creates. An artist may be a painter or a sculptor or a music producer or a musician or a dancer. Yeah, or a photographer. They are all called studios. So that's where an artist creates his work. For us music producers, we have got special tools that we use in a music studio. Okay? The music studio has got, like any other studio, with their own tools, chisels and any pencils. We have our tools in our studio. So this is an example of the studios, the way they used to look. You can imagine that reel-to-reel there was this big. Now it has been reduced to this size. That size to this size. Then we call it a hard drive. It's squashed actually sometimes to a flash, a small thing like this. That's where you record. All that tape is reduced to that. So this is where our friends came from. You can imagine what it meant to say, oh, sing, take one, then start, then the whole thing is going, then you are singing. So now imagine if you made a mistake, how much effort would be put in to rewind, to go back and correct that mistake. So this is where this came from. So the difference is from there to this. That one on top is called an analog studio. An analog studio. An analog as in they were using a lot of hardware. They had what we call compressors, equalizers, phasers, all types of modulators. They are called modulators. As hardware, the actual things that you can touch. So they were analog. So you find it was really bulky. But then all that has been reduced to this, from the analog to the digital, where analog, as we go in further topics, we'll talk about waves and what waves are. There's waves and MP3. So analog usually would change a wave signal into an electric signal or another form of signal for it to go into this tape. So that conversion makes it analog. But then there's the digital era where the same waveform is turned into numbers. So these machines don't use the signals that the analog used to use. These ones are using numbers. So a song goes into numbers. It's easy to change 5 to 3 or 3 to 5. But then it's changing the actual sound of either the voice or the instrument. So this is the digital era. So all that has been put in there. So you find the capacity of this is like maybe 20 of those put in that thing. Or even 32 of those. Because that one is probably 2 channels. 2 channels when recorded. This one is 64. So that's 64 of those put in that disc. And every strip of that on the mixing desk is one of those. 1, 2. That's the way. That's the difference. That's how much or how far we've come. So now we come to the tools that we use in the studio. Okay? Our studio, the main tool, probably the main tool is the computer. The computer is the vehicle. It is the go-between our ideas and what we go through it to get to another level. Okay? That is layman's point of view. Okay? So a computer, that's the first thing that we use, the first tool that we use in our studio. Computer includes laptops, and then sometimes we have computerized mixers or mixing desks, which are called recorders, but there's still a computer inside. So these guys, they get the computer and put it in a mixer, they make a recorder or a digital recorder, but you can still see the screen there. It's still computing arrangements in there. So there's a computer, which involves laptops. Then we have what we call the digital audio workstation. You need to take note of these items because we are going to be referring to them throughout our course. So our digital audio workstation, as I explained, why digital? Because we're not using analog. Everything that was physically seen with the eyes has been changed and put into a screen. And then now you are able to use those in what we call plugins. Right? Plugins. So you can have a speaker like this, or a speaker like that one, but then you get just the specification of the speaker and put it as a program, and you call it the digital audio. So it becomes digital. So now this is the workstation that uses those plugins. So what is a digital workstation? A digital workstation is a program that we use to interpret or to record our sound in the computer. That's a program that we use. It's called a digital audio workstation. Okay, so there's different types of digital audio workstations. There's Cubase, as I explained earlier. Cubase, there's Pro Tools, there's Logic, there's Fruity Loops, there's Reason. But standalone, where it can record vocals plus every other thing, there's Cubase. And for the purposes of our course, our main DAW or digital audio workstation will be Cubase. Then of course we'll branch off to others as we go in further topics, but Cubase is the main DAW that we're using in this course. So there's a computer, the DAW, which is a digital audio station. Then there's the interface. In simple terms, it's also called a sound card. But a sound card, there was a time when we were starting our recordings, like the years past, they used to be cards themselves. They were in the form of a card where you slip it into a computer, then join, connect your instruments or your microphone to it. It was a card. It was an actual card. So now that card has been put as an independent thing now, and it's called an interface. This is the one that interprets our wave sounds, our digital recordings, everything into the computer. So it's like an independent sound system or a sound production system within or outside the computer. So you can have a sound card or an interface in the computer or outside. But for us, most of our sound cards will be outside our interfaces. I'll give you an example of an interface that I have. I have one here. So the interface, we put either an instrument there or a microphone. Then behind here or in front, we connect to the computer. So our sound is interpreted here into a form that the computer will understand. Then taken out again to the output speakers. That's where it goes there. So it's got an input and an output behind where it goes to the speakers. Okay? So that's what we call an interface or a sound card. Sometimes an interface is not always a sound card. It can be another form of sound interpretation system, and it's also called an interface. So we've got the computer, we've got the DAW. Those are the tools in our studio. Remember, a studio is a place where an artist does what? Creates their work. So to create that work, they need tools. And the tools are the computer, the digital audio workstation, the DAW, and the interface. Then we have the fourth one, which is the studio monitors. The studio monitors are the ones that now give us the final product to our ears. We are simplifying it. So we put our music in the computer, it goes through the interface, then the interface throws the music to these guys, and these studio monitors are the ones that now actually give us a sound. In layman's language, we call them speakers, but speakers are different. These are studio monitors. They are there for us to monitor the sound. Okay. As we go to further topics, I'll explain the different types of monitors, even the different types of interfaces and the different types of computers, yes. The fifth one is the MIDI controller. MIDI controller is another tool that you use. So you have your computer, you have your DAW, you have your interface, then you've got your studio monitors, then there's the MIDI controller. we have got new names today. You are not just using, oh, this is a keyboard. Yeah, usually we say keyboard. Eh? But there are certain keyboards which cannot be used to control MIDI. Yes, yeah, to control MIDI. I'll explain MIDI as we go in our next topic. What MIDI is. Yeah, but it's digital sound which goes through there as a digital signal into the computer. Then it's able to trigger sounds in the computer or samples and play them using that system. So this is the MIDI controller or the keyboard. So you have your computer, you have the DAW, you've got your monitors, your sound card, and the keyboard. Then you have your microphone. You can't have a studio without a microphone, a music studio, because the microphone is the one that picks the voice, and it's also the one that picks out acoustic instruments. Acoustic instruments like acoustic guitar, where you don't plug in, you use your microphone. And microphones also come in different forms and sizes and with different specifications, depending on what you are trying to achieve at a particular time that you are recording. Okay? To go with microphones, we have headphones. The headphones are a form of monitoring system also. You monitor your sound using headphones. There are certain producers who don't use studio monitors. They strictly rely on, and if you're a producer and you're a family man, in the night, when it's time to rest, people are sleeping, or you have got a neighborhood which is sensitive to sound, then you don't want, people knocking on your door. You use headphones. Totally, you can actually produce a song from beginning up to the end with headphones. Only they've also got their own advantages and disadvantages. But basically, they're the best things that you can use in the absence of studio monitors. Then you've got microphone stands. Yeah, so you have to have your computer, what to use in your computer, which is the DAW, the digital audio station, with your interface to interpret the sound and to have the sound to go into the computer to be recorded. And for the sound to come out, you need the monitors, studio monitors. Then you need the MIDI controller, which can play the samples within the computer. It draws the sounds from the computer and plays them like a normal keyboard. Because the normal keyboard, the big keyboard that we use even in our churches, has got its own interface there. You just put speakers on it, the cable, and it's playing. Others have got their own speakers, so they've got the interface inside, all the sounds inside. But for our purpose, we will have some of our sounds in the computer. And the keyboard that draws the sounds from the computer to play is what is called the MIDI keyboard. So after the MIDI keyboard, you need to have microphones, the ones we use for your voice, and acoustic instruments. Then you have the headphones that you monitor in the absence of this, even together with the studio monitors. Then you have the stands, which are very important, because you cannot hold a microphone in the studio when you're recording. You need a stand because there's a lot of elements at play. There's electricity, there's currency, or current, electrical current, or anything. So you don't want your sound to be zapped or to be disturbed. There's a thing where you stand and the microphone, when you touch, there's a noise that it will attract. So that's why we put them on stands. And basically, again, you'll be tired by the time. You'll be shaking, meaning you'll be changing positions of your input into the computer. So those are the tools that you need. One more tool, almost forgetting. Cables. You need the right cables to connect your studio as a music producer. So basically that is what, there's different types of cables. There's you can see there's the jack-to-jack cables, there's microphone cables, and they're specific, and some of them have got one pointer, others have got 2-3 holes. They've got 3 pointers there. Yeah, so as we get into specifications of how you should buy these things, you will know what cables to buy. Right? You don't buy anyhow. You tell them, no, I want a cable for this. We've got terms for those cables, and we'll give them to you so that you buy the right stuff as you because you can't be a good producer without these tools at home. Of course, you can hire and go and work from other studios, but the more you practice, the better you become. So you need to have them as near to yourself as possible. So we go back to, we'll just revise a bit of what we've talked about today. I hope you're writing your notes. I'll give you references as we go. Yeah. So, we've talked about this music production being a process. We say we develop ideas, we create a song or we record, and then we refine the ideas by mixing and editing and mastering. Okay? Then we said production flow is where it involves songwriting. As a producer, sometimes you write your own songs. Sometimes, most of the time, you find people coming with their own songs. So we help them develop the idea. This also still falls under the first items, which are developing. So when an artist comes, because in our next 2 topics, we are going to sit and start the actual work. This background is important. So songwriting, you have a good understanding of songwriting, because as a producer, sometimes you go and get a job in a radio station or a record company where they will just be getting advice from you. What do you think about this song? So if you have an idea of techniques of songwriting, you have the answers. At least you advise more professionally on songwriting and composition. You take your time. All these we zero down on them, zero in on them, so that we understand what a composition is. Yes, and then recording. Recording is where we will spend a lot of time as producers, because then we'll be sitting down using our digital audio workstations to actually put down. So when you develop an idea, you refine it, you record it now. It's a very big process, the recording. I think I can't remember the last time I ever stayed without recording in the last 20 years. I record every day, every hour, I'm just recording. Whether the song comes out or not, we are just recording. So we'll spend the rest of our lives, hopefully, recording. Then sound design is another big part, as I said earlier, where apart from designing the sounds and editing the sounds in the studio, not the music, but the sounds. So it can be anything. It can be outside noise. It can be noise or the sound of wind or the sound of something, or the kitchen, the environments. So you design those sounds and you keep them. You keep a record of them. You can sell the sounds that you've designed. You can go into some bush or some place, record the frogs, then that sound. There's a lot of media and media productions where they need such ambiances or ambience of sounds that in movies and TV. Then there's the mixing, where now you put everything together to make sense in the best way possible. Then after mixing, you master. As we said, mastering is where now you whatever you've made, you standardize it and say, in our case, we'll be putting them at 44.1 kilohertz, or is it gigahertz, somewhere there on 44.1, where now everybody uses 44.1 to play back. That's the speed on systems, on phones and everything. If it's above that 44 or it's 48 point something, it will be too fast for your gadget and it won't catch up. Then it will tell you that media is not good enough. Yes. Then there's the music producer himself. What are the functions of the music producer? We talked about creating a vision for an artist. In fact, you'll be doing a lot of that in Zambian productions, because people just come and, I've got an idea. It goes like, no, they've only got one part of the verse, not even the whole verse, just a corner of the verse. Then you start creating from that. They will sit there and wait for you. They've paid you. So we do a lot of work as producers, and then if they don't have a vision, you give them the vision. If they have a vision, you go with the vision that they have, or you work together, which is the best. You work with the artist, then you advise accordingly where they should go, or what should be omitted, what should be kept. Then you coordinate. If all these they've got a good direction, what you do is that, okay, I'm going to coordinate the whole system. What do you need? You need this person, you need this instrument, you need this. You just coordinate the recording, and then the producer should always use a DAW, a digital audio workstation, and they come in various forms. Sometimes it can just be a pencil recorder. It's also a DAW. It will just be recording around, then you go and offload somewhere, like a lot of journalists do. They use that. You can't carry a computer around. So then we talked about the background of what we are going into as producers. These are guys who have influenced the sound of the world. Yeah, the whole world sound, they're following there. Whatever music you're doing in your country, it's like music, rudiments of music. Whatever you do outside everywhere else, you are still within the rudiments of music, the rules of music, the actual standards of music. So these are the guys who have had an influence on the world map. There's Quincy Jones and these other guys. And then there's Dr. Dre. And then Africa, of course, there's a lot of other producers in Africa. Some are known. But these are the guys who have come to the fore, and the guys who have been in front, influencing and directing and pushing the sound to bring it where it is now. And Nigeria is a giant. You agree with me? Yeah. So then Zambia, we've got, as I said, Charlie Mlalami. We've got Ben Blazer. He's had a huge influence on sound. He started off with Peterson, and recording on the Copper Belt. He's been a huge, and when you talk about Zambian music, we want a producer in Zambia. 9 out of 10, they'll put Ben Blazer. Because he's the guy who's been in front. They all, Zambian production, Ben Blazer. What production? Ben. So the Ben, then there's the guys, and the new guys, and Astash, and them who are very good. Tishon is also a very good producer because he's very dynamic. Yeah. Then we come to studio. A studio, as we said a studio is a what? Is a place where an artist creates his work. And there's different types of studios. There's analog studios and there's home studios. This is a home studio. This doesn't look at all like a home studio. But home studios basically will just have small things, a microphone, you're sleeping on your bed, you have an idea in the night, you just wake up, you sleep again. It's a home studio, it's just for home, domestic. Okay? Then they go in steps until you come to a professional studio. A lot of studios maybe in our country are semi-professional. We're not shooting them down, but you understand what I mean, eh? They are semi. They are almost professional. But a professional studio has got a lot of physical gadgets. A lot of all those things that are in the software and in plugins. In a totally professional studio, all the plugins are in hardware form. Yes, so if you got a very beautiful plugin as an equalizer, you will actually see it and use it as a, so, and it's got its own advantages also. So then that's analog, that's where we're coming from, and this is where our digital is. Our digital studio, these desks are so huge, they're so big. Usually when we are working in our working environments, when you're using an interface, do you remember what an interface is? A sound card. Mm-hmm. So when you're using an interface, it's just one. This is one interface. But this desk has got, if it's 32 tracks, then it's got 32 interfaces working independently. It's got 32 of these there. So if I turn it like this, and I put them like this, I make a desk. So I'll be interface 1, interface 2, interface. Each channel has got its own interface. That's how big it is. So this one, it operates between 44.1 to about 96 or 48 megahertz. That's the power of this. That one, on the other hand, works around 96 megahertz throughout. 96 is the highest, meaning that the processing speed and everything, the quality is probably 4 times more than this one. So you will say, no, I want to sound like R. Kelly. It's fine. You can. But it will be easier if you had this. Because then you don't have to tune your sounds too much. A kick is a kick. It will go in the way it is. It will come out as a kick. But with the smaller interfaces, you'll have to do a lot of tweaking and turning of knobs so that you come up to this. But this guy is the highest. You can't go above this. So that's the digital mixing desk. That's what they call it. Then we come to the components of the studio. And in this case, the tools that we use in our studios. The tool number 1 is the computer or the laptop. Depending on where you're coming from and your preferences, you can use a desktop, you can use Windows, or you can use Mac. Mac is biased to music and publications. Music, it's dedicated. That's the word I was looking for. It's very dedicated to music. Windows is broad, but it's up to you. You prefer, there's certain doors like digital audio what? Workstations, which work well with Windows, and there are others that work very well with the Mac. So sometimes you might find your DAW is misbehaving. It's not working very well. It's lagging. Maybe it's the operating system which is causing it. So you'll find the same DAW changed into a Mac, starts working properly. Sometimes you find you take it and put it in Windows. So we are going to look at, in our next topic, we are going to look at the specifications. I can give you a simple idea of the specifications that you need, for example, for a Windows, for a studio. The minimum specifications or specs for your tool or your computer in the studio should be at least something like maybe a 3.5, 3.7 something processor. Megahertz, hertz. What do you call it? Gigahertz. So you need that 3.5 going up kind of processor. A Core i3 minimum or a Core i5, Core i7 going up. You have the speed. Then you have at least a RAM, minimum RAM, 8 gigs. We have survived in Zambia because we started off with 2 gigs. In fact, we started off with 1 gig RAM. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I've got a gig. In fact, we didn't start off with 1 gig. We started off like 500 megabytes RAM. And then like a song to just jump from one part to the other, to go like a whole hour, we're trying to go to the next part of the song. But now, we have got a chance. So minimum is 8 gig RAM to about 16 gig RAM. So 3 point something processor, gig processor, an iCore 3, what you call it? Core i3 or Core i5 going up. That's what you need. Anything above that will make your system stable enough to handle music material, because music comes in what we call waves, and waves, just one wave, a healthy wave will be something like between 10 to 20 megabytes, one wave. So if you've got 20 waves already for just one song to be processed, so you need, that's why we need that kind of specs. Mm-hmm. So that's our first tool, the computer and its specs. Cubase. This is our standard and our model that we're going to use during our course. This is digital audio workstation DAW Cubase 5. It comes in many forms. There's Cubase 2. We started off with Cubase 1. It was just called Cubase. Then it came to Cubase 2. Then it jumped to 3 and 4. We never used much. We went to 5. Then there's 10, and there's Cubase 12 or 20 or something. But I'm very familiar with Cubase 5, which we are going to use as our standard DAW, Cubase 5. We shall be recommending accordingly what else you would need to buy for your studio or to use during your studio sessions efficiently. You know what I mean? We'll advise. You come, you tell us and ask exactly, and we'll give you the specifications of the things that you need to buy. So then we talked about the interface, which is the sound card. That's the other name. And this is the one I showed you there. This one is called the Focusrite. Focusrite is a good brand. Okay, it's a good brand. We have been using a lot of M audio here, M audio interfaces. But Focusrite also has come on the market. It's come on very well. Sometimes you can be so used to a certain brand and you think the other brands are not, but it's only when you try them. For example, in our country, we've been using a lot of Toyota, but you have to try the BM or the Benz. Then you understand, okay. So they also work, they are also cars. So Focusrite, there's M Audio, there's different types of brands, but for our class here, we'll be using the Focusrite and the M Audio 8x8. This one is called the Focusrite 2x2 interface because it's got 2 channels going in. So it's called a Focusrite 2x2. Yes, then there's 4, you go to 8 channels, and you go to 16 channels. But when you go above 8 to 16 channels or to 10, going up, then we stop calling them interfaces like that. We call them digital mixers because then they become bulky. You can't have a card this long or this high. So you make a mixer now, you turn them around and put them on a board like that. So then it becomes a digital mixer which has got a lot of channels. That's where the digital mixer comes from. It's also an interface with a lot of channels. Yes. Then now, studio monitors. We've got a number of brands which are good. There's Yamaha. There's this is KRK. Okay. This is KRK. They come in inches. We usually use. We start using from maybe 5 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches. 8 inches is quite big because when you are dealing with studio monitors, then you are dealing with maybe even the size of your studio or your room. There is what we call the short throw or the long throw kind of monitors, where they're also called near field or far field monitors, where if you place it where it is and where you are sitting, the sound may come directly onto you, or it may jump you and it will be playing behind you, the optimum sound. So you need to know the size of the monitors depending on the way you are going to sit, how far you're going to sit from them, so that if they're near field, they'll be near you. If they're far field, you keep them far off because they'll give you the optimum sound where you will sit. So we'll look at those far field and near field monitors in the next coming lessons when we zero in on monitors. But the brands would recommend, and you have to balance between your budget. Yes. Good. Okay. So then, after monitors, there's digital controllers, MIDI controllers, which is basically there are a lot of them. There's M audio. There's a number of them. But basically, when you go into a shop, you say, I'm looking for a MIDI keyboard. So then you look at the weight of the keys. Yeah, if you know about keyboards, you need to get soft keys so it's easier to play. So you don't have to jam hit hard even when it's a soft thing that you're trying to achieve. Then we have the microphones, and microphones come in different forms. There's what we call there's the normal microphones that we use. Then there's the studio microphones, which are called the condenser microphones. So the condenser microphones use a special kind of system because they get their power through from the mixer, whereas the normal conventional microphones you just plug in and But for our studio purposes, usually for vocals and other instrument recordings like acoustic guitars and everything, we use condenser microphones. And we'll show you the different types of microphones that you can use, because you can't use microphones that are not like one microphone for all. No, they differ. Yeah, so you will have to have specific microphones for specific things that you are trying to achieve in the studio. Yeah. So as you look at your budget, you know whether to get what is right and what is cheap. Yeah. So then there's headphones, which we said you use to monitor your sound. So as you mix your music, you switch between the studio monitors and headphones. Or sometimes, depending on your work environment, you can use headphones throughout. Then microphone stands and cables. Cables come in specific forms and length and size, and some come fortified. If you have got a lot of traffic in the studio and people will be stepping on the cables, and you'll have to know how to put them. And then the longer the cable, the more they are likely to attract noise. So the shorter the cables, the better. Yeah, so we'll talk about that as well. Otherwise, this is all we had for today's lesson in our introduction to production. So, my future producers, I'm hoping to see you soon in our next class, which is next Monday at 18. Thank you.